Welcome everyone to AURI Connects Webinar Wednesday, part of AURI Connects monthly online series featuring updates on the work AURI is doing to foster long-term economic benefit for Minnesota through value-added agricultural products. I'm Dan Scogan, the AURI Director of Government and Industry Relations, and your host on Webinar Wednesdays. The AURI Connects program is hosted by the Agricultural Utilization Research Institute of Minnesota. This program aims to actively engage all participants in the food and ag industry to improve competitiveness of producers, businesses, and entrepreneurs through ongoing, purposeful connections of resources and partners along the value chain, and increase knowledge of opportunities, technologies, and trends. Remember, this event is being recorded and archived and can be found at auri.org. Remember that you will be muted during the presentations, but you can send us your written questions through the Q&A portal on your screen. Today, we'll welcome Dr. Jimmy Gosse, microbiologist at AURI. Through practical and applied research, the Microbiology Laboratory in Crookston, AURI aims to improve and expand the ways in which microbes add value, treat waste, and provide new products for Minnesota entrepreneurs and established agribusinesses. To this end, Dr. Gosse provides laboratory support and technical advice in the areas of microbial biochemistry, molecular biology, and genetics for AURI partners. He will take us on a 5-year road trip through the AURI case study of the use of replay agricultural oil and preservation agent by the City of Hutchinson. It appears to be a win-win-win situation as we begin to use an environmentally safe road sealant that reduces transportation maintenance costs and grows markets for Minnesota farmers. Funding for the project was made possible through the Minnesota Soybean Research and Promotion Council, and we also want to thank them for their leadership on the Road Preservation Initiative. Before we hear from Dr. Gosse, let's get a few opening remarks from Jim Willers. Jim and his wife Jill farm 1,100 acres of corn, soybeans, and hay near Beaver Creek, Minnesota. He represents District 7 of the Minnesota Soybean Research and Promotion Council and has been heavily involved with the council's Product Development Action Team. Jim has been involved in the advancements of biodiesel in Minnesota for over the past 20 years. His dedication to agriculture is not limited to the MSR and PC. He's also involved in many other ag and community organizations and is a past director with the United Soybean Board. Jim Willer, welcome to Webinar Wednesday.
Well, thank you and good afternoon. I'm Jim Willers. I farm in the Laverne, Rock County, Minnesota area. I'm a longtime director with the Minnesota Soybean Research and Promotion Council. I also chair the council's farmer-led Product Development Action Team, which is tasked with helping bring new uses to soybeans and bring them to commercialization. Bio-based road treatment technologies present a unique opportunity to reduce overall maintenance costs on roads by extending the surface life and delaying costly repairs. To that end, the council has been proud to partner with AURI for this ongoing study. In 2020, for the 5th year, we have invested checkoff dollars into the study of replay pavement preservation and its life cycle cost analysis. We've been very encouraged by the progress that we've made, and you'll learn this later in this seminar. To date, more than 400 applications of replay have been applied across Minnesota on city streets, parking lots, trails, and county roads. These studies provide Minnesota transportation officials, with an added level of confidence in predicting the financial results of this soy-based pavement treatment method. They also help to add value and drive demand for soybeans. And in fact, the oil from 200 bushels of soybeans is needed to seal just one 2-lane mile of road with soy-based road treatment. So on behalf of the council, I want to thank AURI and Replay for their support of this project, along with promoting the advancement of soybeans. And now I would like to move this along and turn it over to Dr. Jimmy Gosse.
Well, thank you, Jim, on behalf of AURI. Thank you for the ongoing support of this important work. It's been a long journey, and today is really going to be a road trip. I'm going to try and provide the detail for our practitioners to learn the specific information needed to help generate interest, grow knowledge, but also provide the background and context for the program so that all of those listening can take away the important key messages that we're trying to present. As was introduced, AURI is really founded on increasing utilization, fostering long-term economic benefit for Minnesota through value-added agricultural products. And utilization is the key of today's message. And it's really broken down into awareness, acceptance, and then adoption of an important product that's having an impact in the state today. As we get into the work, it really highlights AURI's role in the agricultural research space in the 4 key areas that we focus on at AURI: food, co-products, bio-based products, and renewable energy, with today's focus being in bio-based products, where I co-lead AURI's activities. And our work is a combination of applied research and development, hands-on scientific assistance, and AURI Connects events like the one you're participating in today. And so today's talk is really about asphalt preservation in the case study we've been working on for the last 5 years. And I want to assure you that AURI has, from the beginning, understood the complexity of the task we were undertaking and has gone out to identify, work with, and build on the research of many industry-leading groups that have been active in this space for years. Some of our road program partners and actively participated in today's work, but also in other case studies AURI has been working on include University of Nebraska-Lincoln and Lauren's team there working with Douglas County and Tom McDonald and his group down there, and an important additional surveys that were done there and the use of bio-based products at the county level, as well as work with Otter Tail County and their county roads, and important work that was done with the city of Plymouth and Barb and Sonia on the use of bio-based preservation for asphalt trails that are common in our parks and important recreational areas, as well as all the other partners that are listed here. The Minnesota case study partners, specifically to the work we're talking to today, relied heavily on the contributions of all of those listed here. It's important to note the City of Hutchinson's real foundational role in providing the data and access to the community to really make everything possible today. And John Olson, Public Works Director, is on the call and will be available for questions later, as well as Good Point Technology and Tony Cadlick, having the access to Icon software that is aggregated warehouses and provides the looks needed at the data to allow the assessment to be completed. And of course, funding and the SRF consulting work by Jackie and Ollie that will be highlighted at the end of today's talk and is really the focus of the outcomes of the work. So as we get started, roads are complex. They involve local, county, and state jurisdiction as well as federal, and there's always more problems than funds. Transportation infrastructure maintenance and new building rivals healthcare in the cost that it places on local municipalities as well as state and federal budgets. There is tremendous variability in the infrastructure from not only the materials that go into building it, but also within specific categories, as the maintenance of these projects have a long service life. And so advancements that are made are continuous and very important. However, they can be slow in adoption as the built infrastructure takes time to turn over. And of course, it's always a combination of science and art when you're confronted with these variables. The science of the technologies and the engineering that goes into it, in the art of balancing the many stakeholders that inform, dictate, and control how roads are used, how they're maintained, and the budgets available to do the important work. Asphalt ages, and the primary work of today's talk is really around preservation of asphalt roads, blacktop. And they age a lot like you would expect people to age. Sun exposure, heat, oxygen through the oxidative processes that result in embrittlement of the asphalt that can lead to cracking in the potholes many of us are commonly aware of. And in traffic use, freeze-thaw cycles, especially in Minnesota, and even the methods and materials that go into constructing the roads can all impact the rate of deterioration. But what is held in common is that the specific rate of deterioration of a road or a specific road of interest is really hard to predict. And so the system is managed on a system level or on a population level. And it's important to make that distinction here, because that's also the way we look at the data. And then the other is deterioration accelerates with time. As cracks increase, the exposure of the road to deteriorating forces like the ones on the left, water is also able to penetrate that road surface, and the freeze-thaw cycle naturally increases the distress level. So two important elements held in common and how asphalt ages. As AURI approached the project work, we really started to look at what are opportunities for agriculture to provide solutions in asphalt maintenance, asphalt construction, in the transportation sector beyond biofuels, where they have an important and critical role. Second, if we're able to identify products, are there local high adoption areas that allow us to start looking at what's the impact of how these products are used? And through this process, we started to look at building out an inventory of sites where products are being used and what existing data might be available. So the who, what, why, where, when of asphalt preservation. And we came down to focus on asphalt as pavement. So once the road is built, how to maintain that surface, how to maintain the road and preserve its life for a number of reasons. And most notably, because we know exactly where the resource is. Whereas there are bio-based products that are used throughout the life cycle of asphalt to improve its performance, to provide added benefits. We're really focusing on roads that are built. And in our survey, we quickly identified a product provided by Biospan Technologies that was being applied across the state with many roadway projects already completed. And that was critical to developing a case study. And the City of Hutchinson became a bright spot. As I already mentioned, others were identified. However, the City of Hutchinson was immediately willing to work with us, provide access to the data, and be a partner on the assessment. The product being applied is Replay Agricultural Oil Seal and Preservation Agent, and then from the manufacturer is this precision applied asphalt preservation product that maintains quality for 5+ years after application. It's bio-based, penetrates the asphalt surface, and importantly, relies on about 100 soybean oil bushel equivalent per lane mile use and is non-toxic. So even before getting to the performance, we had something that would be impactful for agriculture and was already being used and applied within the city's standard practices. The information that was made available to the team was recorded as a pavement condition index, a PCI value. Many of you may be familiar with PCIs in general sense, as they're a lot like the pain index score used in healthcare today to provide an indication of your relative discomfort. And this provides an ability to assess how a certain community, subset of a community, or a road system is performing and maintaining, and where opportunities may need to be taken to improve or provide corrective maintenance, resurfacing, and even rehabilitation of infrastructure that's already built. The PCI score is derived from actual crack data and distress information, so it's connected to the real world cracking and distress and provides a general measure of a specific road. And we're going to go through this a couple of different times, but it's important to note that the PCI value is a general value of the condition of the road, and it's based on real world observation of the roads. To give you an idea of what this relates to through images, in the top left, we have a road that's in really good condition, has a PCI value of 96. Moving to the right, a road that's seen some deterioration, but also has had some standard pavement maintenance practice with some crack sealing, maybe some banding here. and it has a PCI value of 64. And then on the bottom left, a PCI value of 28, where there's significant rutting and deterioration of roadbed quality, and then completely deteriorated. So PCI is an inventory management tool. It's a standardized practice nationally. And also worth noting, one road may have many segments with individual PCIs. As a street goes through the city, it may be broken up many times. So giving a lot of different measurements of performance. Hutchinson specifically is a community of 14,000 and it's composed of 185 lane miles approximately. And replay has been in wide use since 2012 and being applied by Bargain Incorporated, the contract applicator that works with the city. Chip sealing and crack sealing and other maintenance and preservation techniques are still in use. And so replay is incorporated into the preservation program and was done by the city through their normal operations. And again, Good Point Technology is contracted on about a 3-year cycle to conduct road surveys to determine the condition of the network in the city. And this is how the data looks. We get a lot of data out of an assessment. And AURI set about to provide a way to visualize it. And in the next few slides, we're going to see some information provided in this format, in which the year the asphalt applied is shown on the left, the year of the survey being conducted is on the top, and then if a treatment was done, it'll be on the right. And in the data being shown, there's a prediction for 2017 performance. I know this is a few years ago. However, it's a part of the ICON software and provides an understanding of where the asphalt infrastructure and the roads may be going in the future. So AURI set about to understand what was being done in the city, and we found that there's more than 130 segments already treated, and they ranged in age from the oldest in 1992, so asphalt that was laid in 1992, all the way through to 2016 when this survey was completed. And there's a general good alignment between what is being observed in 2017 and what was predicted in 2017. So on a whole, replay seemed to be working pretty well from this early assessment for creating the base inventory. And we can identify interesting results like thin mill overlays. All of the replay applications in 2014 happened to be applied to thin mill overlays, which is an interesting case study in itself. And we're not going to go into it further, but already by visualizing the data, we were starting to see interesting elements. And so the case study we approached was to identify a subset of asphalt, and in this case, it was applied between 2007 and 2009, that could be categorized into 3 separate groups: replay treated, untreated, and chip sealed, so we can make a comparison of the performance of replay on asphalt of a similar nature. And it's noted that the City of Hutchinson's use of replay and the asphalt roads are all largely low volume roads. These are residential streets. High volume roads in the city are typically Portland cement and wouldn't fall into the study we're looking at. And so we had a good case study of similar conditioned roads. And from that, we can see if it should be noted that the city is also performing standard maintenance on all of its asphalt, such as crack sealing, and that the untreated roads are not left alone, but rather simply haven't received a chip seal or a replay treatment. So before we go further, we should understand a little bit about our groups in more detail. A chip seal is what you may be familiar with, the surfacing technique that has the little stones that can fly up and crack windshields or cause challenges, but it's an important technique for cities to use and is applied as a hot tack sprayed onto the roadbed, in which then an aggregate is applied over and set in place by either rolling or natural car traffic. Replay, alternatively, is a bio-based product applied directly to the roadbed, but it doesn't obscure the lines and markings and cures in about 30 minutes or less and doesn't involve any of that aggregate or mess associated with the chip seal. So 2 really different techniques, with chip seal increasingly being used as a preservation technique for newly laid asphalt. So an important comparison, and in the data set AURI had access to. So looking back at the data, we can now compare the increase in distress from the last 2 years of the survey at the time, 2014 to 2017, to understand the increasing in cracks. So the bar plot shown on the right shows the amount of cracking that incurred, or the percent change in cracking from 2014 to 2017. And it becomes very clear we had a significant finding, and that replay was strongly depressing the increasing number of cracks. So it was performing very well relative to untreated and chip seal. So we had moved from the anecdotes of John Olson in the Public Works Department observing that the replay treatments appear to be holding down cracking and performing very well relative to similar roads, and to data in which it was showing it. It also put AURI in a position of really needing to identify a consulting partner that could help independently verify our results, because we were seeing a really astonishing reduction in the amount of cracking, and understood that it wasn't what we don't know that gets us into trouble, it's what we really believe that really isn't so. And that's where we engaged SRF to ask the question, how significant is this finding, implementing standardized protocols established by MnDOT and the Federal Highways Administration to looking at a life cycle cost assessment. And today I'm going to be presenting the work of Jackie and Ollie for the remainder of the talk. And this is a preliminary set of findings, and all of you registered on the webinar today will receive a copy of this report when it issues in the coming weeks. Immediately upon engaging AURI, the team developed a set of practices that are accepted for moving from raw data all the way through the LCCA platform. And I'm going to step through that process today briefly to give an idea of the findings they have identified. So the first was data analysis, and they cataloged the full inventory with the capability and knowledge of how to do that, provided a down selection since 2000, and 20 years of asphalt information was sufficient to complete the study and help rule out some of the oldest infrastructure that may not have as much detail on its original construction available. A much broader number of observations were looked at, including a much higher number of segments, with the untreated category representing 312 segments and the replay representing 158. And just as a reminder, the entire network does receive standard maintenance with crack filling, etc. With the data in hand, the group looked at the relationship between the pavement condition index and structural age, and early looked at how is the untreated compare to the replay treated segments shown on the left. We can see immediately that there's a lot more untreated data, which was known from the assessment of the actual segments, but also that the replay seems to have a different profile as we progress in time or structural age after treatment. And second, the distribution of the PCI values for replay treatment was much narrower, centering on a higher value, meaning those segments were in better condition. With each subset, the group was able to use linear regression and the R software suite to apply a least squares method to produce best fits for the performance of each category. And so shown here are two examples, one being non-replay treated or across the full data set, and the second being replay treated across the full data set. And with these fits can be generated an asphalt deterioration rate. And this was repeated for each of the subsets looked at. With regular 3-year surveys, there is sufficient data to differentiate key performance periods, 0 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years, and 10 years and beyond. And we'll talk a little bit more why those key areas, time periods are important. But immediately upon calculating the reduction in deterioration rate, we could see that the deterioration rates for replay were significantly lower, in 0 to 5 years being 2.8 times lower, 5 to 10 years being 4 times lower, and then in the segments more than 10 years old, 2 times lower. So AURI and the City of Hutchinson Public Works Department observations were confirmed at this point already, in that the use of replay by the city was improving asphalt performance. With the deterioration rates, it is time to move to the service life estimation. And in this case, long-term data from actual in-service pavements is very useful and a long-standing practice with the Federal Highway Administration, having the long-term pavement performance program ongoing with 2,500 text sections across North America, representing a rich data set for the teams to draw on, as well as all other researchers in the space, and Minroad's own program with 50 test sections. There was a process to be followed that would be accepted and understood broadly in the community. And it looks like this. A service life estimate for Minnesota state level asphalt deterioration was generated from the long-term pavement performance program by a researcher in 2015, in which actual asphalt segments in the state of Minnesota were analyzed for PCI value by the federal program, aggregated by the researcher, and a rate could be determined. And the deterioration rate as an equation is shown here. And the plot looks like this, highlighting how the asphalt maintains a high preservation score in the early years, but as deterioration, defects, and distress accumulate, the road starts to lose quality and then becomes rapidly losing quality, with complete road failure in 20 years. And this is on average for asphalt in the state of Minnesota. And those key 3 years of performance highlighted here. And so now the team had all three elements really needed to begin looking at service life estimation. The difference between control for replay treatment, a standardized model for asphalt in the state of Minnesota, and the additional data for control and replay itself. The life cycle cost assessment structure used by SRF team was the equivalent uniform annual cost and represents the incorporation of all of these elements. A service life estimate, which is a state level model used in the control condition, and replay and its theoretical implementation model, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. Construction costs were set as high for the sensitivity analysis in the EUAC. The cost of replay was modeled at three different price points, 1.7, 2.0, and 2.5, as well as the discount rate of 3%, 5%, and 7%. Applying these together with a measure of the implementation model, the highest variables with variability were able to be incorporated by building a case study on three different conditions of use. The best case in the model and the theoretical model were three applications on a 5-year cycle. Again, modeling how the product might be used, 2 treatments on a 4-year application cycle, and then a single treatment. And that was combined, of course, with the economic data. From the model, we can use the deterioration rate to predict the service life. And with the model conditions and the observed deterioration rate, all scenarios increase service life from 1.5 to 5 years at the end of the life of the pavement. And that's through maintaining a higher quality of asphalt in the early years. With the service life prediction, the theoretical model, and the application, the LCCA modeling provided a look at the highest level uncertainty variables, and in all conditions, replay use produced the lowest life cycle cost shown here in a plot of those very same conditions. Best, most likely, and worst case, going across the top, representing the 3 theoretical applications, the discount rate on the left, and across the bottom, the cost of replay. The red line providing the baseline cost of an untreated segment given the construction cost and the service life estimation. Now, with the data in hand and a theoretical model, the team was able to go even further and look at the Hutchinson data and create a data-driven scenario for the LCCA, because the theoretical scenario was for sensitivity. Now the team wanted to look at what is the city observing through the data that we have in hand. And so two scenarios were developed additionally, and that's a multiple application scenario in which the replay is applied once again on a 3 application treatments, 6 years apart, and then a single application lasting 6 years in this case. And that's based on the long-term preservation rate numbers observed earlier. Once again, the LCCA modeling of the application scenarios and now with the economic variables provided a direct look at what the city is experiencing and allowed an ability to estimate service life and the LCCA. And in this case, the worst case scenario has already been shown not to exist based on the rate and the performance of the treated segments. Replay use was also shown to produce the lowest life cycle cost. Now, in every scenario checked, the 3 theoretical models as well as the 2 models based on the city's use of the product, and in this case, significantly reduced relative to the same bench point. Service life extension estimate was also done for these, and in this case, the service life extension is between 3 and 11 years, indicating a significant increase in service life can be expected by the City of Hutchinson in its use of this asphalt preservation technique, and it is in the range of 3 to 11 years. So importantly, in summarizing, as we moved through the data set and have access to the City of Hutchinson, we were able to move from anecdotes, so use of the product and then additional use of the product within its own preservation program, to data and data analysis, and then interpretation within an accepted engineering structure. The City of Hutchinson has 10 years of positive results from implementing a preservation program with Replay, and those results have been now confirmed with an AURI review indicating a significant reduction in distress. Working together in partnership with the independent assessment by SRF, an analysis that is now developed that supports both of these assessments. The replay treated segments have a lower rate of degradation as observed and as recorded in the PCI values, again, done under contract with Good Point Technology. The economic sensitivity analysis of the highest uncertainty values of, again, replay cost, of discount rate, and in implementation leads to a reduction in the life cycle maintenance cost for the asphalt preservation. And in conclusion, the Public Transportation Agency is looking to review an additional component in their preservation strategy can have confidence in predicting the financial benefit for asphalt preservation with replay. We started out with AURI looking at asphalt and asphalt products that were ag derived for increasing utilization. And we understood that utilization in this instance would really break down to awareness, acceptance, and adoption. So first, where are the products used and why and how? Growing awareness. Increase in acceptance through, let's understand the performance of those products as they're used in the real world by practitioners in the field. And the SRF results have provided that. How do we move to adoption? Well, there's more than just budgets. A cost-effective program, however, for preserving asphalt does save money today and can be shown now to give value return for years to come. But there's also environmental benefits through adoption of a bio-based product alternative. Green cities or green city programs can experience longer lasting roads, which are more environmentally friendly, as well as bio-based products offering green alternatives to petroleum products in use today. These bio-based products can also have a significant carbon reduction score for communities looking to decrease their carbon footprint, with the bio-based product highlighted here today, Replay, having a negative carbon intensity score can really contribute to a city's overall plan. And of course, performance. Products must work, and I think we've established that through the two different analyses shown today. But also there's a positive community response to delaying, reducing, or maybe in some cases eliminating the need for chip seal, which can often be seen as a nuisance in the community. Parks and trails, highlighted earlier in the city of Plymouth, have a pet and people-friendly option that reduces the downtime in the network. All of these are reasons for action. So I'd put out to the community listening today and to those that the groups listening interact with, collaborators on this project are ready to work with you now in implementing a bio-based transportation project or projects in your community. And we're open to dialogue on finding out where, how, and when for your group to participate in receiving the benefits that have been observed already. And second, AURI is exploring options for additional grant program support and partners to interface with cities and counties to support new bio-based asphalt preservation projects. There's an opportunity for immediate economic benefit, environmental benefit to displacing petroleum products with long-term water and land protection opportunities, culminating this project in adoption. Moving through the slides, it's important to come back to thanking the teams that have been involved. The funding provided by Minnesota Soybean Research and Promotion Council has been important, but also strategic in supporting 5 independent projects early pitched as 1-year projects with a 3-year plan and a 5-year vision. Starting out with, we didn't really know what we were going to find, and ending with the presentation today, and hopefully going forward with new support and project partners to identify opportunities for other communities to see benefit. And of course, for your attention today. A reminder, all of those on the call will receive a copy of the report if an email has been provided, and that report is anticipated to come out by the end of the month. In the meantime, if you'd like to learn more, identify contacts, please visit the following websites for Biospan Technology, the manufacturer of Replay, Bargain Incorporated, one of the applicators in the region, and Good Point Technology for icon management software. And of course, AURI is an opportunity to identify not only our internal reports, the phase 1 report, and in the coming weeks, the SRF final report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gosse. And this is our opportunity to ask the experts. Dr. Gosse, I understand you have some additional people on the line that can step forward. Is that right?
Yes, with us today, we have Jackie representing SRF and one of the primary data analysts behind the SRF study, as well as John Olson, Public Works Director for the City of Hutchinson, in which the case study was based.
First question that comes to us is, how long after initial construction is Replay usually installed? So I don't know who wants to take that one, but.
Sure, I will. This is John Olson. I'm with the City of Hutchinson, and typically what we will do is we will leave a brand new road for 1 winter, and then in the second year, sometimes in the 3rd year, will be the first application of Replay.
Okay. Is this for mainly spider cracking issues? We have a question, somebody that works in county government, or is it, well, I guess we'll just ask it that way. Is this mainly for spider cracking issues?
So
What we have, oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
Jim,
John,
go ahead.
take that one first. The big differentiator here is the use of the product is to preserve the quality of the road that's there. And so by application to the road surface, penetration and addition of the polymer mix, you're not only rejuvenating or reducing the oxidation, increasing the flexibility of the pavement, but also providing strength back to that pavement. In so doing, you're going to prevent the types of distresses you're discussing, cracking, alligator cracking, etc. John, in your experience, you can talk to specific distresses you've seen reduced and other use opportunities.
Sure. The one thing that we've noted, and we noted quite early as we adopted this technique, is we noted at oftentimes around manhole structures or gate valve structures, it's difficult to get compaction like you do on the rest of the roadway. So oftentimes that area was the weakest, and where we really found out that replay had a significant impact on the strength of, just how the congealing the asphalt together was when we worked around these structures. We've seen oftentimes in a city street application, you'll drive down a road and you'll see cracks radiating from structures in the pavement, such as manholes and valves. What we've seen is that replay will prevent them, will stop them for a period of time, and that's where we've really noticed right away a big difference.
When you call out end of effectiveness period, the best case, worst case scenarios, does that mean the deterioration PCI curve will be more like an untreated section than a treated section? Or what does that mean? They're looking for some clarification there.
I can go ahead and answer that one.
Perfect.
They are correct that at the end of the effectiveness period, we assume that the deterioration will return to that is similar to an untreated segment. Good question.
What are the skid numbers like on the surface after application?
Yeah.
Typically, immediately after, there is some loss of the skid factor, but what we found is within oftentimes 2 hours, hour and a half, it really depends on the weather. We're getting readings that are about what we would expect and what were there before.
In your cost figures, do you account for the cost of chips and all costs for comparisons?
Yes, the construction materials are considered in the cost estimates, and there will be more detail on what those specifics are in the report that will be sent out.
Jackie, while you're on camera there, I think I'm going to ask you just to maybe talk a little bit more about the process your team used in going through this.
Sure. So I guess at a high level, I can start by saying, as Jimmy mentioned, we were provided this data from an ICON database, and we did some cleaning up. As with any database, there are always recording issues, so that's something to keep in mind if you're interested in doing this type of work. So from there, we estimated the deterioration rates that Jimmy talked about, and used those to then determine the full service life of the pavement. And we then fed that into what's called a stochastic life cycle cost analysis platform. So that allows for some uncertainty in our input values in terms of costs for things like binder, which fluctuates quite a bit. We don't want to assume like one value. And at the end of the day, the value that we get out is a dollar amount that can be compared between our different treatment groups. So yeah, were there any other specific questions that you wanted me to maybe dig into a bit more, or?
No, I think it just helped people kind of understand the process you went through. We have several other questions that have come in. Does the product reduce the effectiveness of the glass beads or the reflectivity when it's sprayed? John, any problem with that?
We have not had any issues with that. We typically, at least in our, we utilize we spray our striping virtually every year with a latex material, including the glass beads. And what we found is that after application, there's a short time during what I'll call the dry down period, which is roughly anywhere from a week to 2 weeks in normal conditions. There will be a darkening of the striping, but it does not affect the reflectivity portion of it. And then once the material dries down, then it's pretty much back to normal performance. So.
How do you technically know the product penetrated the asphalt surface layer?
Oh, that's a good question. We did some early work on core sampling, and you can see it come through as you take the slices of those cores. And there's a tremendous amount of literature already out there. When AURI set out, we wanted to see the observed real world impact of use and speak to what John Olson and drive to what John was seeing in his work. But there is a literature basis for that work that's in the technical literature. And I'm sure the manufacturer would love to get into the details on that with you if that's something you're really interested in.
Is there benefit to applying replay to previously chip sealed roads?
That's there's a lot of combinations that you can start looking at. We didn't look at that specifically. I think John might have a comment on some of his experiences in different uses.
Right. We have done that. We have applied replay to previously seal-coated roads. And we're seeing similar results. And to be honest with you, we did a couple of streets that we did that on purpose just to see what the impact would be. And I think the conclusion, or our conclusion, is that why would we put a seal coat down if we can get the same benefit without putting a seal coat down? The rock, even when you fog seal on top of it, which has been our past practice, gets away from you, and in an urban setting, oftentimes ends up in people's garages and in their kitchens and everywhere else. And they so they appreciate when we don't do that to them.
Question here, do you have any research reports available from independent third-party investigators?
So SRF was engaged as an independent group. We presented it, being a partner in putting it forward, but the analysis is their own analysis with their own analytical suite and team.
And really their work is that third-party verification, right?
Yes, that was the idea.
Okay. I think you touched on this, Dr. Gosse, but how many bushels of soybeans are used in these treatments?
Yeah, the rough calculation is with the product being applied to a lane mile, that's about 100 bushel equivalent per lane mile. So they oil from 100 bushels of soybeans.
Were any asphalt testing of cores of the non versus treated roadways performed? And at what depth was this done, assuming only the top surface is affected?
Yeah, we worked with the city, and we had Braun Intertech managing the coring process strategy. PRI did the testing as well as Braun Intertech. And we did compare 2 roads in the city. John was kind enough to let us drill a bunch of cores and extract them and patch them up. And what we were looking at is after 5 years of a treatment, did we see a difference in the asphalt structure itself, again, after 5 years? And because we had already seen a dramatic difference in the relative cracking. And so the untreated road had 70% more cracks in it than the treated segment. And the coring sample afterwards showed that they were approximately the same. So meaning that the benefit after application in the cracking was observed, and that benefit does require a reapplication, which is a part of the standard practice when using one of these products. So we were interested to see that, but it's a really expensive proposition to do a lot of coring. And it does open up your asphalt structure to some significant damage when you're pulling the number of cores. But it was something we looked at.
How is the application rate determined? Is the pavement's age considered when you're determining the rate of application?
Yeah, and so being precision applied, it's always good to know the amount of recycled asphalt product being used, or the wrap, the age of the asphalt, and other treatments that have been applied. And that's a part of the relationship between this, the Public Works Department and the applicator in getting the right precision application.
Is replay patented?
Yes.
Okay. Has replay been used on high ADT roadways, say 15,000?
I don't know the specific number, but we did work with funding from the United Soybean Board a few years ago, working with Tom McDonald in Douglas County. And again, the county roads in that case had a much broader range of traffic volumes. I'm not sure if we got as high as 15,000, but we were in the 10,000s and up. And in that case, again, looking at an inventory, we didn't have access to as many data points. So we were doing a single data point analysis. And again, there you're looking at the number of roads that were done in a certain year with how replay treated roads have performed relative to that cohort. And again, similar to the work in Plymouth on parks and trails, when you're only looking at the replay number, it takes a study like what SRF did to put it in context to understanding where all those controls are dropping out. As they get reconstructed, they don't show up in the data set. So you may have very recent applications having a lot of controls, and as you go back in time, less and less. So there we'll be going back and hopefully getting this report in the hands of our partners and putting the context around those additional bright spots that are in the Midwest.
I'm not sure if you have the answer to the next question, but we're going to throw it out there and you can certainly make a comment. As a parent of a child with life-threatening allergies to some food products, I'm wondering if you've considered any concern for people in the spray area who have life-threatening allergy to soy, and or drivers and passengers on hot days driving over the road with the windows open. Also, with soy allergies, are other plant-based products being considered, such as flax, which is less prone to cause severe allergic reactions?
Well, it's certainly a concern that AURI and the biobased program does here often. It should be noted that a refined bleached deodorized oil is virtually free of antigen because it doesn't have protein in it, which is the antigenic response that a child would have with. Of course, no manufacturer in their right mind would ever tell you they're absolutely 100% guaranteed never to do something. That's not the position, but generally in science, refined cleaned oils. Now, second to that, there's been a chemical process applied. And so these products are value-added products derived from the soy oil. And so I don't think this is a concern in it. That's as much as I can say on that.
What are the effects, John? This one I'm going to throw your way. What are the effects of rain, and how soon can you expect it not to be affected by rain after you've put it on?
The conditions under which you apply are a little bit more forgiving than a typical chip seal. But again, you do not want to apply when rain is threatening. certainly if rain becomes, if it starts to rain, you stop immediately. What we found is that the cure time increases with the amount of moisture. So let's say a cooler day in the spring will add some cure time compared to a nice summer day. But very, very similar application conditions compared to a typical chip seal.
Here's a question about a little more about how the product works. They just ask, does this fill the air voids in the asphalt? Is that what it's basically doing?
So when the product is applied to the asphalt, you get penetration. You are adding back polymers into that material and providing a sealant, as well as reducing the oxidation that's present there. I can't speak directly to, absolute conditions of performance. Again, not an area that AURI looked into. We were looking at roadbed performance as observed from the city itself.
What's the biggest issue? Or John, did you want to add something to that?
Go ahead.
Okay, what's the biggest issue or issues for scaling up the use of this product in more communities? And what would be some solutions to those issues? Have you thought about how we bring this to a bigger audience?
Yeah, I don't think we have scale-up issues to, not certainly from the observations we've seen in the places. There are replay uses across the country, and then internationally as well. So as far as adoption in different climates, different use conditions, those are ongoing and growing every day. I think awareness and acceptance are the biggest issues to preservation, as there have been challenges in the last 25 years to product performance, and those are real, and the experience of communities that had negative experiences must be understood and honored. But technology advances, techniques advance, and I think we're seeing something here that really has a benefit and to provide a solution.
And I think we'll leave it with this one. With a rejuvenator product like Replay, how can a public agency bid a project out to get multiple contractors?
We've addressed that with because right now in Minnesota, Bargain Incorporated is an exclusive applicator. The technology requires that you know exactly what you're doing when you put the material down. You don't want to over apply for sure. And so we take quite a bit of time working with directly with the applicator so they understand the type of asphalt that they're working with, the mix designs, the amount of wrap, those kinds of issues. So because of those calculations, I think it's important to work with somebody who's authorized by the manufacturer. When it comes to the projects themselves, is single source is sometimes a problem, but we have overcome that with the exclusive relationship between the applicator and the manufacturer.
Okay, I think we're going to leave it there. John and Jackie, thank you for your willingness to be with us at the end of the program today to answer some good questions, and Dr. Gosse too for your time and for your presentation. And that will conclude AURI Connects Webinar Wednesday for today. I want to thank also the Minnesota Soybean Research and Promotion Council for funding this project and for their leadership on the Roads Preservation Initiative. AURI Connects Webinar Wednesday is presented by the Agricultural Utilization Research Institute of Minnesota. AURI's mission is to foster long-term economic benefit for Minnesota through value-added agricultural products and processes. We're interested in your feedback. So please respond when we send you our event evaluations. Remember, for more information on today's program or any of the work that AURI is involved with, you can go to auri.org. Now, next month, we'll be learning how the University of Minnesota West Central Research and Outreach Center in Morris, Minnesota, has been a pioneer in the development and the demonstration of renewable energy technology, which supports the potential for green ammonia in agriculture. So join AURI Connects webinar Wednesday on April 14th for a technology overview of the systems that support production of green ammonia and the economic implications for agriculture in Minnesota and in the region. You can always learn more about other work that AURI is involved with by going online at auri.org. We'll see you April 14th for another AURI Connects webinar Wednesday.